Welcome to the CEO Bros Podcast, After Hours, with Brian Baldoff, co-founded, grew, and sold VHT Studios. Brad Baldoff, CEO and co-founder of By Your Side Autism Therapy Services. Matt Croak, the consummate entertainer, jack of all trades, and serves as our host.
In the same class. No. Wow, that would make you guys like within 6-7 years.
I'm just a little slow. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm
here.
sitting right here.
Matt and I went to high school together.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people know that, which is kind of exciting.
And there was a class where we were all in the same class.
With a roll call.
And it was the first day. It was junior, senior year. And the teacher's like, Brad Baldoff. And then just saying, like, crap. Matt Croak. Oh, no. Mark Lancaster. Are you kidding me? My God, you're all here? Can you tell me? It was just
yes. We're all here. We're all here.
Who's who. So speaking of, actually, there's no speaking of. I'm just saying.
Just welcome to. Cheers.
To the good friends at Solo Cup.
Hey, I want to throw a curveball question at you before we get into the topic. So we just had August come and go. I've always wondered about this, and this could be a stupid question. I'm not in finance. 3 pay periods in a month, right? August had 3 pay periods in 1 month. As a CEO entrepreneur, is that something they have to know about, or is some people handle it one way or it's handled another way? What happens on 3 pay periods a month?
I'm going to let Brad answer this one.
No, it's actually depending on what the driver of the question is. I mean, typically it's 3 pay periods in a month is you're thinking about cash flow.
Yeah. And
you're spending 3 pay periods. And if you have 550 employees that are going out 3 pay periods, it's a serious cash flow thing you're concerned about.
Because the revenue is the same. You don't get.
Right. So over the course of 12 months, it doesn't matter, but you're okay. That gets to make sense. But cash flow.
Right. I mean, from an accounting treatment standpoint, there's what's called GAAP accounting, right? And that they spread those payments out. So on the books, it looks like it's 2 for every month, or it's treated with a spread out way of handling it. But from a cash flow perspective for a new business that's going, especially it's going through one where you have either seasonal flows of rental, where perhaps you're in a business where you depend on, seasonality, where certain parts of the year are stronger than others in revenue, or revenue stronger in certain parts of the year than other. 3 pay periods in the course of a month could be brutal, right? Because you're paying out a lot of cash, and revenues could be down at that point in time because it's seasonal. Yeah. And so, it could be really rough.
Do you think new entrepreneurs maybe could there be a misstep?
I know you don't, because we're going to do a whole episode we've got it on the list. Cash is king. Mm. I've seen many successful businesses go out of business because you run out of cash. You're too far ahead on inventory, and they're like, man, stuff is selling like crazy. We got to get inventory in here. And then you run out of cash. You're dead. Your business is over. It doesn't matter how good the business is, how much people like it. When you're out of cash, the game's over. It's like running out of gas in your car.
You know something about that in the standpoint of DVD Playground.
Yeah.
Years ago. Remember that? Yep. Matt used to sell DVDs a long time ago, 20 years ago. Yeah. And you had a big time of the year when it would come up into the holiday season, and he would need to get his hands on a lot of product, but it was sold, and you basically have to fund that product up front. And that's a lot of times what you actually see on Shark Tank. You see guys saying, well, I have orders.
I need money for
And they're like, well, hell, if you already got the orders, I'll fund that.
And that was before Amazon was Amazon. There was no prime shipping at that point. So those people relied on, even though it was priority mail, they ordered, they wanted it by the holidays, even though there was no, Amazon Prime. The expectation, believe it or not, was still to get your stuff on time.
But that would be an example of like a seasonal aspect of a business in which maybe you're selling a lot of product around the holidays, or you're selling product around a certain date time frame, and you have to put money out for product to have it on hand, but you don't have that cash, right? Now think about a standpoint where you need to have that cash ready to buy the product, and at the same time you're paying 3 pay periods in a given month. Yeah. That's a cash crunch, right? That's when you hear like We got cash flow issues. That's a cash flow crunch. And how do you navigate that? And a lot of times we talk about, being able to get bridge loans and things because they're temporary, short-term. You need short-term solutions. Maybe you borrow from a friend. A friend will lend you with interest, whatever. But so it's a brother.
Yeah.
Yes,
but we used to get killed. I mean, VHT Studios was very seasonal. So real estate in spring, April, May, June, just booming, and then after Thanksgiving, real estate shuts doors and goes away for 6 weeks. So we never had any cash in January. And January is a long month. February is a short billing month. We wanted to do annual bonuses, but we couldn't pay them in January, February. We didn't have the cash. We wound up paying our bonuses in like May or June. Kind of
dog
treats. Their calendar, right?
Dog treats. Hey guys,
but, as you had asked about entrepreneurs going into it, like the most disappointing thing to me looking back now was how much I started to hate the holidays because you're paying out and you're not bringing anything in. And it's seasonal for us. I'll give you an example. In May, we would need 30 people in customer service. In December, we would only need 10.
Yeah, so what do you do? What do you do with those 20 people?
We didn't fire 20 people for a month or two. We started going to temp labor in May and trying to figure out the balance and things like that. It was
so let's stick with this concept because I love the deep dive because we talk a lot of things about in general, but there are a lot of small details that entrepreneurs need to know. And I still go back to our first episodes of I have an idea, I'm going to start a business, you have to be all in, but there still seems a vast desert of I have an idea to starting a business and little things that entrepreneurs aren't thinking of. Let's call them misconceptions. So what would be some misconceptions for this episode that entrepreneurs may not know is a pitfall as they go to idea to start?
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's they're not fully aware of like people prepared
yep.
to or they have a misunderstanding of that. Okay, I'm just going to start a business. Okay, well, do you have money stashed away or what? Like, how are you going to live? How are you going to
money?
Part.
Okay, so
how are you going to pay your bills?
Okay.
How are you going to live a normal life while you're starting a business where no revenue is coming in? Because you inherently have some expenses of something, right? Maybe you have a storefront, maybe you have an online programming fee, maybe you're paying an employee, maybe you have to buy product. So that costs money. And it starts day one and there's no revenue coming in. So I think there's this misconception. And it's really prevalent in social media today, where you see all these people like, I'm making all this money. It's like, it's such BS. I'm sure there's people out there that are making money quickly. There's some get rich things, I'm sure. But most of the time, most of that stuff is a lot of BS and it's advertising to get you to do something so that they make more money off of what they're doing.
I make money because I'm convincing you to buy my get rich quick scheme.
And I don't think we say this enough.
I have a book.
I don't think we say this enough. You both are passionate about this is not get rich quick. You both are do due diligence, do your homework, work hard. None of your ideas are here's the fast track.
Right. Because I wouldn't share those. I would just keep doing it myself.
Which is why
if I had a get rich quick scheme.
Which is why he doesn't.
No, right? No,
I mean, I gave away Eddie's spaghetti, but that's it. That's the only one I'm
and
giving
Afghans.
away.
We know there's a need for
Eddie's spaghetti.
The other ones are all staying in my drawer. I'm convinced.
Exactly. No. So I think that one misconception is that, okay, when I started my business, I mean, I hate to say this, but you have to, in some shape or form, you have to moonlight a little bit on your existing job. What does that mean? Well, it means that if I'm working my daily job 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, not necessarily moonlighting, but you've got to find other time to do your business. So you've got to be working at night, 5 to midnight. You got to be working on weekends. You got to have somebody that's working on the business during the operating hours when you can't be. It's got to grow. The business has got to grow. And I think part of it is that people kind of forget the notion that you're going to have out of pocket money. I remember talking to somebody, someone was asking, I go, okay, so you're going to, pay your money to get your legal, to get your corporation set up. So you need money for for your LLC, you need money to speak to an attorney about your operating. You say, whoa, wait a minute. I don't have that money. I'm like, wait, you need some money to get started. And I think it's a misconception of the fact that, okay, well, while you need money to get your revenue going, and by the way, that's not guaranteed that your business is even going to make it, that the revenue is going to come in to offset the expenses you have. But you better have what I call a stash. You better have money set aside, and you better have a way to be earning a living and paying your way while you're figuring that out. And I think that's a misconception. I don't think people realize how much of that goes on. But I noticed Brian's going to his pocket for some notes.
Well, no, I agree with you. And I the way I would describe it is everybody focuses on their product or their idea or their store, and they may have a great business plan. Here's how the business is going to make money. They may even have money set aside for the business. But how much you pay yourself? Because to Brad's point, I've seen a lot of businesses fail. The business is successful, but it's not generated enough cash for the founder to pay their electricity bill or their mortgage or their gas. So, if you have a family, this is a family discussion. A lot of cases, well, my spouse is going to work and pay the family bills, and I'm going to do this, and we're going to give it 6 months, or we're going to give it 12 months or whatever. But you've got to think through, how do I take cash out of this? How much do I take out of it? And what are the personal needs in addition to the business needs? Because, you could say, oh, my spouse is going to work and pay what if they get laid off? Then your business shuts down because you've personally run out of money. The business is doing fine, growing, getting new customers, paying its bills. But now all of a sudden the founder or the person who's running the restaurant or the shop or the whatever, I got to get another job, or I got to find another source of income.
The business.
Or take money from the business, which is worse, because the last thing you want to do is go to an investor because you're short on the personal side. They will sniff that out like that. Like, hey, I'm not putting money into the business so you can pay your electricity bill.
I think I saw that on Shark Tank, and it surprised me a little bit, where they said what one of the things you're going to use it for, and he's like, "Well, I got to pay myself," and they all went, "Whoa, we're out! Like, we're not, we're not, Well, these guys like, "Well, I gotta," and then it became made for good TV. It became a back and forth. Well, you have to expect me to pay my bills and eat, and they're all like, I went, and they're all giving me like, I ate ramen for a year. Like, sorry, my friend.
No, that's exactly it. And Brian and I think had a debate one night saying, well, how long did both of us go unpaid by our respective companies that became, multi-million-dollar operations, as in how they had to start. They had to start from the position of, I didn't pay myself for 3 years in my current job. And then when I did start, it was about 2.5 years. And then after I started paying myself, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to be paying myself a CEO salary. It was a salary that would barely get by until I could pay myself more, and until I got to a point where the company's driving enough revenue, driving enough profitability where it's like, okay, I can start to pay myself a normal wage for someone that's leading a company. And it's still not enough, right? It wasn't enough for the longest time. So I think that's one of the big misconceptions that are out there, is that you better have that thought out. That's got to be a thoughtful part of it, because as you read about all the time, 95% of, I don't think it's that high anymore, but 75% of companies fail within the first 12 months. No. And it's probably because that wasn't thought through. It's like, I don't have any money. I can't pay this anymore.
Right. That reminds me, I want to give a shout out to a new friend, Scott Greenwald. Met recently, entrepreneur, came out of MIT, has developed a new virtual reality app for real estate, like pre-construction real estate. You can take tours of developments
through a VR app
in Dubai through a VR app. It's amazing. Just closed his first seed round for $3 million.
Nice.
So Scott, congrats.
Congrats, Scott. Well done. Well played.
Are we doing personal shout outs? I'd like to shout out my neighbor. I was at a block party. We had a great time. He gave me a beer. So,
Brad, shout out.
Justin, thanks for the beer.
No, I do.
Sorry. So we have money as a misconception.
It's not that I don't have any shout outs. I don't want to take up the viewers' time.
I really did not get a beer from my neighbor. I made that up. Money is a misconception, so that's one. Any other misconceptions we can think of, if that's the right word, but you know where I'm going at.
Tying it to the money, time, how much time you have.
Okay.
I mean, you never
have enough time.
And you don't have an unlimited amount of time. That's for sure. I mean,
like to get it
going, right? To get things going. I mean, expenses are incurring, whatever that may be. I remember we started By Your Side. We had a lease. We had to start paying a lease on space. We had no customers. So just picture that one. So you have a lease that's signed for 7 years, paying several $1,000s a month, and you have no customers. And you're paying labor, you're paying for utilities, you're paying for business licenses, employee wages, making sure that you have all the furniture and furnishings and supplies and equipment all there. And so that's all expense. So some of it's capital, some of it's operating, but there's no revenue coming in. So you do have a certain amount of time before that's going to run out. You're just going to run out of cash, And
some people refer to it as your runway. Like, think of a plane taking off. Like, okay, at some point you're either going or you're not. There's a line, and you got to think about that line in advance. Like, okay, like I mentioned earlier, I talked to your spouse.
We don't see X
I'm giving
by
it 6
Y.
months. I'm giving it 9 months. We did that with CEO Bros. We said, here's how long we're going to give it. Here's the milestones we want to see along the way.
Can you give any more detail other than you've got to think about it? Is it pen and paper? Do you get an account?
Are you talking about in general? Or are you talking about this? What are you talking about? Are you talking about
runway? How to figure out in general? Because it's one of those, you've got to think about it, and then the entrepreneur's going, okay, I'm thinking about it, but what do I do? I still don't know how long to make my runway.
So this is a great question for another reason. Just a little side route here. Thinking about it and actually committing to it are two different things. Like, because a lot of founders are on their own. They're in their own head. They're like, yeah, I'm going to give it 6 months. But that's like, somehow you got to make a commitment, whether it's to your spouse or to your business partner or something, because if you don't, you always wind up fudging things. And like, well, I didn't anticipate this, I'll make it 9 months. I didn't anticipate this, I make it 12 months. Before you know it, you're so deep in a hole, you can't get out and you're panicking. So it's just kind of, it's like anything else you're trying to change or do in your life. They tell you to write it down, put it on the mirror, tell people that you're committing to doing this. That's pretty scary.
I will lose 10 pounds.
Right.
I will lose 10 pounds.
I am going to drink the rest of this. I will.
Good commitment. There we go. Come on, you can do it.
You can do it. Do it, man. Do it.
I can't. I'm out. Bankrupt. I'm out.
But that's a big part of the runway is, I can think about it, but I really got to commit to it in my head. And I'm not a big believer in you have to write it down. You have to tell other people. I feel like I have the willpower to make a commitment to myself, but I know a lot of people don't. And to me, it's key. Figure it out. Like, okay, here's my personal expenses. Here's the business expenses. Here's some cushion in case something happens that was unanticipated. And then at the end, like, kill it. There's nothing worse than being dragged into a I can relay an experience. Like, get out and start a new business.
I can relay an experience where, so we started a company called GN Enterprises, and GN Enterprises was the whole concept was we were going to executive produce this comedy troupe. It was a 3-man comedy troupe. Matt knows it well. Matt actually played with these guys for a while, and the comedy troupe had big success in touring their show, and they had big success with releasing their first DVD. They actually sold over 1 million copies, and they had written several more shows after it. So I said, well, why didn't you guys make DVD 2, 3, 4? Well, the company we work with didn't go ahead with that one for whatever reason. I'm like, well, I'll do that DVD. Let's do that DVD. And then what we'll do is we'll back your show in certain cities, in the cities that you've done the best at, and we'll sell all your DVDs there.
At the shows.
At the shows. Oh. We'll back your show. We'll sell DVDs. And at the end of the day, I ultimately saw that they would have a stay in Vegas, that's where we'd ultimately get them to, that like they would be a residence in Vegas, and that they would have a shop selling goods, and the DVD would be one of several DVDs that would be released. And that was the end game. That's where we were going to go. And so we had set X money aside for this venture. And they were going to do Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and London in that order. And we started with Chicago because Chicago was the home city. It's where we were based. This was great. Well, Chicago was supposed to generate X thousands of dollars of profitability per week for 8 weeks. And after 4 weeks, it was losing $20,000 a week for 4 weeks. And it was literally shooting straight downhill. And the reason is we just did not draw the advertising, the publicity, everything we wanted for them at that. But we panicked very quickly. Like, we are losing money hand over fist. Forget about DVD sales. Can't get people in the theaters. People aren't coming to see the show. And now you start thinking out and you're going, we still are committed to these 3 other cities for 12-week runs. And we're losing this much money in our home city. Well, luckily, San Francisco wound up being break even. Washington, D.C. wound up making money, and London made money. But the reality was that Chicago was so scary. In fact, we actually said if it had been reversed and Chicago was at the end, we probably would have done some things differently that would have made us more successful. But Chicago was going so bad, and the money that we had set aside to do this project was running out so quickly, we had to cut it off. We actually had to pay the penalties with the theater and say, we're not going to be able to make this for another 4 weeks at this theater. So we're going to cancel our contract early. We're going to pay the penalty fee, which we didn't ever envision having to pay it. But we got to shut this valve off. So to your point earlier, Matt, it's like, well, when do you know? It's like, well, we knew that on the pace we were going to hit that. We have $0 left. So we called it off. And it was actually a really big decision to say, do we even go forward with San Francisco, or do we want to even risk this? Do we just shut it down now?
Completely.
Thinking, and we said,
pay all the penalties,
pay all the penalties, just pay it out, just pay us out and say we're done.
Right.
And we just said, no. These guys have got a track history of being successful in these cities. And we did, and luckily we did, because it wound up making money for that. But to your earlier point.
Well, it's such a great story, and I don't want to veer too much off the misconceptions, because you brought up and you brought it home, is calling it and saying, we got to stop it now. As an entrepreneur, you have it in you that, hey, you may fail 2 or 3 businesses before you get the right one. And so if something's not working, you can say, it's not working. I'm going to take my losses and I'm going to fight the fight. Could be a completely different business the next day. Failure is a part of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think most entrepreneurs will tell you they've failed multiple times. It's part of the
So calling it early is not a bad thing. Sometimes saying we got to make that decision, you have to think not only the future of the company, but future of you maybe starting another business.
Yeah. What's the expression?
Well, you hear all the line that Michael Jordan always says, how many shots did I miss before I mean, he talks about all the shots he missed, all the games that he lost, everything. He says it made him better because he knew what he had to work on to become that much better. It's the same thing with business. So if you're out there and you're worried, like, I may fail, it's okay if you fail. In fact, I've failed in multiple businesses, but I think it made me that much stronger in the businesses that have thrived and have done really well. Cause I learned, I can't do that again. You won't do that. Don't try that. One of the other misconceptions is never jump into anything half-ass. I'm just telling you, it just doesn't work. Meaning, I think I want to do this just a little bit. I'm not going to put all my resources. I'm only going to put a couple resources into it. I'm not going to sign this or that. I'm just going to try this a little bit. It's like, that doesn't work. You've got to commit to it. We always talk all in, right? Don't go in anything half-ass. You got to go in all in. So if you're going to do something, commit to what you're going to do and then do it. And to your point, call it off early if you feel like it's not going to work. But to just trial things a little bit here and there, it's hard to get to gauge full-blown success on that when you're giving 100%.
I resonate so much with that because, as you know, as a performer, we talk about all the time, and I had a life event and I don't perform anymore. And people ask me all the time, why aren't you performing? Because I have children to raise. I have things to do. I couldn't go into it just doing one show or half-assed. If I couldn't give my full craft to it, what was the point? If it was a good community show, and a lot of people still don't get that. Like, I don't see how you could just give it up. I'm like, you can't do acting just, well, maybe I'll do one show on the weekend. You're not gonna make money.
Yeah, you're being realistic. I mean, there's an expression, hopium is not a strategy. Everybody who's an entrepreneur is optimistic and, looks on the bright side of things, but the successful ones are the ones who know hey, this didn't work out. They may not even know the reason. They may disagree with the reasons or whatever, but can cut the losses, come back later, try it a different way. That's why it's always good to I always tell people, like, run your business past an objective third party, whether it's an investor or somebody who's just not even involved at all, because they'll tell you the brutal truth. And
like, you're not thinking that through.
Yeah. In worst case, you can either be aware of those things and consider them, but there's nothing worse than, just plow, it's all product, all store. I'm just going to do this. There's no way it can't be successful. I've heard so many entrepreneurs say, this is going to be successful. This is the greatest thing ever. People are going to want to invest in this. And I'm like, people have choices.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to money, they have other places to put their money. That's what you're competing with. This may be great. You may see the future. You may understand the road to get there.
Cotton candy has already been invented. Right. You shouldn't open a cotton candy.
No, it's candy cotton though. It's the candy is in the cotton.
Yeah.
I think the third thing that entrepreneurs may miss going in because they're so focused and running is you tend to think about your business, your product, your store, your service, whatever it is, 99% of the time. But in reality, once you get started, about 50%, at least 50% of what you deal with is outside stuff, outside noise, interference, distractions, issues. Well, think about, the guy who opens a brand new restaurant on a main thoroughfare through town. And 2 weeks after thoroughfare. That's a word.
All right. That's very fancy.
Is it with the Ipsy Tipsy?
Yeah. Are you watching Downton Abbey later? Is that...
Wow, okay. That's being pretty critical. What terminology?
Thoroughfare. I like that word.
Okay, so it's a street that goes Main Street. Yeah, they open it, big grand opening.
A lane.
Things are going great, and then all of a sudden, the village decides that they're redoing the street, and they shut it down, and there's no parking, or traffic gets rerouted, or things like that. Permits don't get done. Signs don't get approved. Zones don't get approved. A competitor opens across the street, or that's what you actually wind, because in the military they say no plan survives contact with the enemy. As soon as you hit the beach, everything changes, and you've got to be prepared. And I don't think a lot of people prepare for the external crap,
or the fact that you have to pivot. I mean,
you're going to have to
pivot. Doesn't mean that you're going to veer off and not do your business plan. But your business plan is going to go in a roundabout way, and there's things that you're going to have to consider that are externally driven that you weren't prepared for. And some people are like, oh no, woe is me. It's like, you got to deal with it. It's like, that's like part of it, of opening a business. And so I think the point what Brian's bringing is that you get in, all of a sudden these things start happening, and you fold up like a tent. Amber, I'm sorry. No, you pulled up. Sorry, from an earlier episode. Oh no, I don't think we were published that. But you either fold up or you just say, okay, well, I got to pivot and I got to figure out now how to overcome this hurdle. And that happens. Like we talked how many episodes ago? 20 episodes ago we talked about disasters. We talk about things that just derail you, just veer you off course, and you're like, okay, wait, we're still doing this. But I got to deal with this, and I got to figure out how to get around it. You have to. You don't have the luxury of saying, I'll just let it play out, or I'm not going to deal with that.
So I need some clarification. Is this a mental prepare or a financial prepare? Are you saying prepare that it may happen, like get ready, like mentally plow through it? Or are you saying put some money aside because you don't know what's going to happen?
I think it's both. Definitely put money aside. When you build your plan, like you can't just be like, hey, we're just going to make it. Like, you need 3 months living. Everybody always gives.
Well, people always talk about contingency, having money for contingency.
So that's a budget.
Set aside for contingency.
That would be
the
an
mental
actual
side
budget.
is you're not going to have 100% of your time to execute your plan. And one of the big ones I see nowadays is losing employees. When you do your plan, you're like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody to do customer service. I'm going to hire somebody to do sales. I'm going to hire somebody to do accounting, and we're going to go. And then 3 months later, your customer service person leaves.
Your sales manager
then
quits.
Who's doing customer service?
Then now what happens? You better pivot. You got to figure it out. You can't just be like, well, we're done. I mean, like you got to find somebody who can do sales. And if they can't, you're doing sales, or somebody's, you got to figure it out.
Or look at lately, say you're selling a product from another country and now you get hit with a 25-40% tariff. Okay. You can't prepare for all these individual, circumstances, but mentally realize you're not going to be able to just do your plan. Like I've always heard this about presidents of the United States. They always come in with, even just politicians in general, they go into office with a plan. I'm going to fix education. I'm going to fix healthcare. I'm going to fix this. And then the world interrupts because there's wars and there's terrorism and there's, economic issues. And they all say, by the time you get through your 4 years, you're lucky if you got one thing done on your list. It's the same with business. Like all your grand plans that you think you're going to finish in 3 to 6 months, they're not going to happen. You got to be agile. You got to be nimble. Like to Brad's point, you stick, you do it where you can and you stick to it, but you're going to have to deal with other things.
I think of athletes too. Like you've got all your plans and all of a sudden you're in the game and there goes your Achilles and then you're out for a year.
Well, think about J.J. McCarthy. I thought Minnesota Vikings quarterback gets drafted early. Was he first round or second round? He gets drafted. He thinks he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings and he goes down with an Achilles torn, right? So he's out for the year or whatever that was, the injury for a year. Sure, that wasn't part of his plan.
Or the coach's plan. I mean, think about the poor coach who's built his whole offense around this new quarterback, and now it's like, okay, now what are we going to do?
Yeah, I think that's I think, Matt, the point with the athlete is a great analogy for businesses. That happens all the time. Every day, every week, every month. Something's happening. We're like, okay, I didn't, that's when you're pissed out. I need a stiff drink. I can't believe that just happened, Well,
here, use the sports analogy. Look at what the Bears did not too long ago with Tyson Bagent. They paid their backup quarterback $10 million. His contract wasn't even up, but they realized how important a contingency plan is, and he fits in with their offense. Like, hey, something could happen to Caleb Williams. Like,
yeah, we got to back up. So yeah, I think those are some of the things I can think about when we talk about the psychology of starting a business, getting underway. And I can think about and look, I could, I'm sure we can go on and on with this, but I think there are a few that people should consider: money, time, and then the external influences that are going to occur where, to Brian's point, you're not going to be able to think about your business 100% of the time. In fact, a big portion of the time is going to be pulled in other directions, and it's your job to try and pull it back, get back on the rails, and get back where you're supposed to be heading. But God help you if you think that you're going to be on a straight line the whole way through, because that ain't going to happen.
So what pitfalls are you worried about? Send us an email, leave a message on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button, which is free. It is free to subscribe. It just means that you get content automatically downloaded.
And patronize our good fellows at Absolute Citron.
And I am going to complete my goal of finishing the beer, but
you didn't finish it yet?
I didn't say I was going to finish it before the episode was over.
Our good friends at New Glarus Brewing Company, they have multiple beers, but Spotted Cow is our favorite. Brian,
America runs on Spotted Cow.
Yeah, America runs on Spotted Cow.
Or at least the Dairyland runs on Spotted Cow.
Exactly.
Cheers. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Later.